Hi everyone. Huawei recently invited us to Intersolar, one of Europe's largest solar energy exhibitions held in Munich. And I really wanted to make a video to share with you all the innovations and the most impressive projects we discovered there. We were able to see, among other things, that Saudi Arabia is building a city in the Red Sea desert, which is expected to welcome 1 million tourists every year and is supposed to produce 100% of its own energy. With the largest solar installation in the world, we're talking about 760,000 solar panels connected to 1,300 shipping containers filled with batteries. We also got to learn about the story of a Swede who installed solar panels and a battery on his roof to be self-sufficient in electricity. He was so convinced by the system that he installed it gradually at all his neighbors' homes and throughout his entire village, making it self-sufficient in electricity. At this expo, we got to see plenty of examples showing us that it's technically possible and economically interesting to produce 100% of our energy through solar panels and batteries. But above all, we saw that there are several ways to make this energy transition and several ways to use this energy. Producing clean energy is a good start, but we must also use it wisely. In this video, I suggest we look at all the examples we discovered over there together. Let's think about how we could get inspired by them. And then let's see how we could build our cities of tomorrow with energy production and consumption that are truly ecological. Let's start with Saudi Arabia, which is currently building a city in the Red Sea desert to welcome 1 million tourists a year, in 16 hotels with many activities, electric cars, etc. The goal is to produce 100% of the consumed energy using 760,000 solar panels with a capacity of 400 megawatts. To ensure a constant energy production, these 400 megawatts of solar panels are paired with 1.3 gigawatt hours of batteries stored in shipping containers. The corten steel containers make them easily transportable and protect them from the elements, even in desert conditions, due to the material's extreme durability. A major challenge of this installation is keeping the 760,000 solar panels covering 28,000 square kilometers of desert operational. For that, each panel is equipped with an optimizer that can precisely locate the faulty panel. Then, an autonomous drone takes off and goes to film the area in question to provide as much information as possible to the humans who will then come to repair the system. What I've shown you isn't merely a project, it's already up and running. Currently, this city is powered 100% by this solar system. What interests me the most in this project is the technical part carried out by Huawei over there, which also won the award for the most outstanding project at this year's Intersolar exhibition. You might say it's easy to set up an installation there because there's space in the desert and there's sunlight. Yes, but in the desert it's very hot, which lowers the efficiency of solar panels. The sand also complicates the maintenance and cleaning of all the solar panels. Now, I'd like to introduce this second example that proves to us that solar energy isn't only profitable in the desert. I told you earlier at the Intersolar Expo, we got to discover the true story of this Swede who installed solar panels on his roof and a battery to be self-sufficient in electricity. And who was so convinced by the system that he told his neighbors about it and he installed it for them at their homes. Then after that, little by little, he converted the whole village, which means that now we have a small village in Sweden that produces its electricity through solar panels. Today, he has become a professional installer, and all his work consists of installing and maintaining solar panel systems, mainly in his village and surrounding areas to increase self-sufficiency. I love this story and want to do the same at home. The installation is generally similar to the one in Saudi Arabia. We have solar panels with optimizers to optimize production and maintenance. We connect all of that to an inverter, which allows us to convert solar energy into electricity. And then we connect all of that to a battery, which will allow us to have a constant energy output. By the way, I already showed you this system with the Luna S1 in another video on the channel if you're interested. I think this example is even more impressive than the one from Saudi Arabia. because it shows us that you don't need to be a global superpower to make an energy transition. And above all, it shows us that we can use solar energy. Even in Nordic countries where there's much less sunlight and less space than in the desert. But these two examples also show us that there are different ways to think about solar production. Either in a highly centralized way, with a state like Saudi Arabia building mega solar power plants that will supply millions of people, or we can also think on a smaller scale with individual solar power plants in your home or slightly larger ones at the community level. Really, for me, solar energy is the only energy that is democratic, that has democratic potential. Because anyone can produce their own energy, anyone can understand how this energy production works. And so citizens take back control of the energy issue, and that's very important. Now that we've seen it's possible and interesting to produce solar energy in the desert or even in northern countries, I suggest we think about how we could make my city in France self-sufficient in electricity. The first step is to install solar panels on all roofs in town. We have this available space exposed to the sun and not being used for anything, so we might as well use it. But even though I think small individual solar installations are very interesting because they allow citizens to take back control of energy. I admit that it's not the most cost-effective or eco-friendly system. To achieve economies of scale, we should also set up medium-sized installations in the municipalities. That would still leave control in the hands of the residents, but it would also mean less maintenance and management to handle, especially for those who don't want to deal with it. So let's say we produce a third of our electricity at home and 2/3 together in the community. And to produce this electricity in the community, now that we've covered all the roofs with solar panels, we have to put them in the fields. But to avoid taking space from our crops, from our food, we're going to do agrivoltaics, which means we're going to place the solar panels higher up and space them out to let some light through. That way, we can keep farming and producing electricity at the same time. Agrivoltaics has 3 major advantages. First, it takes up very little ground space. Then, it protects crops from the heat of the sun while letting through just the right amount. This also reduces the water needed to irrigate crops. And the third advantage is that the plants cool the atmosphere and therefore the solar panels just above them, which helps increase their efficiency. To stabilize our energy production, we'll install battery containers in the community, allowing us to be 100% self-sufficient in electricity. At the Inter-Solar exhibition, Huawei showcased another fascinating innovation: to recharge electric vehicles more quickly. Electric cars take a long time to recharge for 2 reasons. The first is battery technology, which limits the charging speed. Some cars can recharge at 7 kWh, while others can reach 250 kWh. Recharging your battery can take anywhere from 12 minutes to 7 hours. But the second problem is that our power grid isn't strong enough to recharge several electric cars at maximum power at the same time. Those who own electric cars have already experienced this many times. When you're alone at the charging station, your car charges much faster than when there are a lot of cars charging at the same time. Huawei has therefore invented a system to solve this problem. They install batteries that will store energy when no one is at the charging station, so they can deliver much more power when there are a lot of people. Coupled with a liquid cooling system, this allows several cars to be charged at power levels of up to 600 kilowatts. Which means that if the car's battery allows it, you could recharge 1 kilometer of range in 1 second. Imagine fully charging a Tesla from 0% to 100% in under 5 minutes. In conclusion, it was very interesting to go to this Intersolar show in Munich because it allowed us to see a lot of technological innovations that let us take back control over our electricity production, but also to develop a lot of new uses. Now let's make sure that these new uses remain in an ecological mindset, and that's not always the case. If we take the example of that Swede who installed solar panels and batteries for his entire village, here, we're already in a more interesting approach, since the people who will produce their own electricity will be able to realize how difficult it is to generate energy. And so they'll be more encouraged to reduce and adapt their consumption. Technological innovation can be positive or negative, depending on how we choose to use it. It would be a mistake to believe technology will save us. No, we must first do everything we can to reduce our energy consumption, and then implement highly efficient technologies, but ones that are very simple to use, to produce only what we truly need. That's really why I love testing solar panels and batteries on this channel, because I love discovering all the new technological and technical innovations that allow us to regain control over electricity production and therefore better understand how to adjust our consumption to realize that energy is actually a precious and rare resource. So expect to see plenty more videos about solar energy on the channel. But I will always keep this democratic and ecological aspect because it's also very important to keep that in mind. So it's not just technology that will save us, it's what we do with it. Thank you to Huawei for inviting us to the Intersolar exhibition. We discovered plenty of other brands that we'll be working with on the channel, because we can't wait to show you all these things. I hope this will interest you. I hope you found this video interesting. If so, subscribe to catch the next ones. And I'll see you very soon. This was Julian Malara. Goodbye, thank you.